A friendly reminder. A horror film that truly gives viewers goosebumps arrives. It is a pure pseudo-documentary horror film blending science fiction, mystery, and thrills. The film occasionally inserts real footage. It blends reality and fiction, creating immersive fear and a strong sense of immersion. The story begins. The Resident Evil protagonist, Alice, appears in her own capacity, rather than as a character. She emphasizes that this film is adapted from real events. She will play the psychologist Abigail in the film. Finally, she adds that after watching the movie, if one thinks the story is real, then it is real. If one thinks it is fake, then it is fake. Believing it or not is up to the viewer. Abigail's husband, Will Tyler, is stabbed to death in the middle of the night. But strangely, she cannot see the killer's face. Even more bizarrely, since Will Tyler's death, their daughter's eyes inexplicably become blind. What is even more distressing is that their son also becomes rebellious due to his father's death. Afterwards, the memory of Will Tyler's murder seems to be erased from her mind. She cannot recall it no matter how hard she tries. A series of strange events makes her suspect that supernatural factors may be involved. As a psychologist, she knows that hypnosis can be an effective method to help her uncover subconscious memories, ascertain the truth behind Will Tyler's death, and understand the root of the strange events around her. So, she finds fellow psychologist Dr. Abel Campos, hoping he will hypnotize her to awaken memories of the night Will Tyler was killed and crucial details. As the camera turns on, Abigail closes her eyes, the countdown ends, and the hypnosis officially begins. Abigail says she wakes up in the middle of the night to a sound. As she wonders about the source of the sound, she sees Will Tyler suddenly attacked and stabbed. Then Dr. Abel Campos asks her if she clearly saw what the killer looked like. Abigail says no. She says she cannot seem to stand up. She is frozen on the bed. As she speaks, Abigail starts screaming. Seeing that something is wrong, Dr. Abel Campos quickly terminates the hypnosis. And so, this hypnosis session ends with Dr. Abel Campos reluctantly waking her up. Although it does not allow Abigail to find clues about the killer, it completely ignites her obsession with finding the truth. Because subsequently, it lays the groundwork for her future work hypnotizing others. That night, Abigail returns home. IUR. Tyler interviewee. She sits down in Will Tyler's office. She discovers that Will Tyler enjoys reading ancient language books. Inside the book, there is also a contact number for an ancient linguist. Abigail looks confused. She wonders why a psychologist would look at such things. Note that this is a foreshadowing. Immediately after, Abigail discovers a cassette tape. She casually plays it. The general content inside is that Will Tyler says there is a disease spreading through their town. Specifically, every day around 3 a.m., many residents wake up for no reason and feel fear. The next day, Abigail returns to her workplace. She receives many patients. These patients all share one commonality, which is what was just mentioned. They almost always wake up suddenly around 2 or 3 a.m. every day. When they wake up, they find a white owl/extraterrestrial entity in the room. The strangest thing is that the doors and windows are all closed. They cannot drive the white owl/extraterrestrial entities away. When they wake up in the morning, they cannot remember what happened last night. They only remember seeing a white owl/extraterrestrial entity. Dr. Abigail selects Tommy Fisher, a representative patient from this group. She decides to hypnotize him. The scene shifts. Tommy Fisher arrives at Dr. Abigail's home as scheduled. As the countdown ends and Tommy Fisher closes his eyes, the hypnosis officially begins. Dr. Abigail asks him if he suffered from insomnia last night. Tommy Fisher replies that he did. He says it was at 3 a.m. She asks what he saw after waking up. She asks what the white owl/extraterrestrial entities looked like. Tommy Fisher pauses for a moment and says he does not remember it. At this point, Tommy Fisher speaks with some tension. He looks up. He says something has entered. It opens the door. Tommy Fisher's expression becomes terrified. He seems to see something terrifying. At the same time, his body reacts uncontrollably. Soon, Tommy Fisher calms down. He feels very shocked by his previous actions. Dr. Abigail asks him what he saw that made him so scared, with his face full of fear and panic. But Tommy Fisher says he saw nothing. He needs to go home now. They can talk next time. But will there be a next time? Unexpectedly, on the night Tommy Fisher returns home, an accident suddenly occurs. A woman calls the police. She says Tommy Fisher wants to kill her and her daughter. When the police arrive at the scene, they see the person who wants to kill his wife and daughter is Tommy Fisher, who received hypnosis during the day. Tommy Fisher tells the police he wants to see Dr. Abigail and asks them to bring her over quickly. As he speaks, he fires several shots. Abigail is still asleep. After receiving a call, she rushes over. Abigail takes the phone from the police officer, asking what is wrong with Tommy Fisher. She tells him to speak calmly and to put down the gun first. Tommy Fisher tells Abigail that he knows now what he saw last night, and he remembers it. He has no other choice now. If she also sees that thing, she will understand him. Upon hearing this, Abigail immediately asks what he saw and urges him to tell her. She says perhaps she can help him. She asks him to talk to her, put down the gun, and assures him they can talk for as long as he needs. Tommy Fisher replies that she cannot help him at all. He then orchestrates a devastating and fatal family tragedy before meeting his own demise. The next day, Abigail arrives at the police station to give a statement. Sheriff August seriously suspects that Tommy Fisher's incident is definitely related to Abigail's hypnosis. He argues that before she hypnotized him, the man was living a normal life. But the very night after her hypnosis, the incident occurred. Abigail states she asks what her hypnosis has to do with it. She states that she is just treating the symptoms. Hypnosis guides him to recall what happened after he wakes up in the middle of the night. Moreover, Sheriff August did not thoroughly investigate Will Tyler's case and hastily closes it. The two of them start arguing. Finally, before Abigail leaves, Sheriff August sternly tells her he does not want anyone else to be used as a guinea pig like Tommy Fisher by her. Simply put, he tells her to stop hypnotizing people. Evening arrives, and Abigail returns home. She records recent events with a tape recorder. She falls asleep while recording. The radio remains on. This is a foreshadowing, so remember it. When morning arrives, Dr. Abel Campos learns that Tommy Fisher orchestrated a devastating and fatal family tragedy before meeting his own demise. He then flies a long distance to see Abigail. She is already deeply saddened, guilty, and confused by Will Tyler's death. Now, Tommy Fisher, after being hypnotized by Abigail, orchestrates a devastating and fatal family tragedy. And the police blame her. Therefore, Dr. Abel Campos worries that Abigail might experience significant mental pressure and impact from these events, which could affect her work. Abigail assures Dr. Abel Campos that she is fine and her mental state is good. She states that she will continue to investigate to help the town's residents unravel the mystery of their frequent midnight awakenings, and also to uncover the truth behind Will Tyler's death. Despite this, Dr. Abel Campos decides to stay with her for a while, stating that he is also a psychologist and might be able to help her later. Afterwards, Abigail receives another patient named Scott Straisman. His symptoms are the same as Tommy Fisher's. However, Scott Straisman is quite brave and actively asks Abigail to hypnotize him. Abigail warns him to consider carefully, reminding him that he must have heard about what happened to Tommy Fisher. After hearing this, Scott Straisman confirms his decision, stating that he believes the best way to overcome fear is to confront it head-on. As the countdown ends, the hypnosis begins. Again, Abigail asks Scott Straisman what he saw the night he woke up in the middle of the night. Scott Straisman says he saw an off-white white owl. However, its eyes are extremely large. No, that is not right. It does not look like a white owl. As Scott Straisman speaks, he gasps. Immediately after, Scott Straisman says again he thinks he saw someone outside the door. No, it does not seem to be a person. They come inside. He has no other choice but to pick up a weapon to defend himself. As he speaks, Scott Straisman begins to convulse all over, almost suffocating. Seeing this, Abigail quickly wakes Scott Straisman. She terminates the hypnosis. After waking up, Scott Straisman violently vomits. After he calms down, Abigail asks him who he saw and who they are. Scott Straisman says they do not belong here. He cannot describe their appearance. He cannot control his brain. He sees the white owl, but it is not the white owl/extraterrestrial entities at all. And they also take him to a place. He does not know where they went or what they did. Dr. Abigail writes all these things down. She says that is enough for now and tells Scott Straisman to go home and rest well. So, Scott Straisman goes home with his wife. After the couple leaves, Dr. Abigail and Dr. Abel Campos begin to speculate. While they are speculating, Dr. Abigail's assistant rushes in. The assistant says she recorded some abnormal content on the recorder. This happened on the night Dr. Abigail fell asleep with the recorder on. At first, Dr. Abigail recounts her day, which is normal. But later, it becomes abnormal. Her heart-wrenching screams are heard from the recording. She must have been awakened by something. Immediately after, some unintelligible language is heard. Only then does Dr. Abigail realize that she also experienced something similar to her patients. Obviously, that entity is very powerful and can erase people's memories. After returning home, Dr. Abigail repeatedly listens to the recorder. She deduces the general events of that night. She was sound asleep. Then something suddenly breaks into the door. It takes her away. She knows this from the scratch marks on the floor. Moreover, Dr. Abigail has a scar on her back. She does not know what they did to her. And that unintelligible language later on might be what they were saying. Therefore, she must understand that unintelligible language. This is the key. Will Tyler's death might also be related to them. Thinking of this, Dr. Abigail suddenly remembers. She remembers Will Tyler's ancient language book that he read before, which had an expert's phone number tucked inside. She thinks she just needs to ask him. Dr. Abigail then calls the expert. She says she will go there tomorrow. The scene shifts. Dr. Abigail finds the expert. She plays the recording. After listening, the expert points out that the recording is in ancient Sumerian. Translated, the core meaning is, we create, experiment, destroy. These words hint at the actions and intentions of certain beings. Just then, Scott Straisman's wife calls. She says something big has happened. She asks Dr. Abigail to come over. When they arrive, they are terrified to see Scott Straisman lying on the bed. After just one day, Scott Straisman has become like this. He looks pale and emaciated. Next, Dr. Abigail lifts the quilt. She surprisingly finds a scar on Scott Straisman's body that is identical to her own. Dr. Abigail asks him how this happened. Scott Straisman does not know. After waking up in the morning, he found this scar on his arm. Dr. Abigail thinks to herself that it is obvious. He must have also been taken away by those things last night. She does not know what they did to Scott Straisman. She decides to stop talking and prepares the camera for the hypnosis to begin. After Scott Straisman hears this, he says in a panic that he does not want to be hypnotized. Dr. Abigail reassures him that it is okay, Scott Straisman, and they are just helping him find some lost memories by performing a light hypnosis, so he does not need to worry. Scott Straisman hears this and asks if it is true. He states he does not want to be hypnotized. She assures him it is true, explaining it is only a shallow hypnosis. She tells him to relax. As the countdown ends, the hypnosis officially begins. She just calls out Scott Straisman's name. The next second, Scott Straisman collapses onto the bed. Afterwards, it is discovered that he is paralyzed from the neck down. The scene shifts, and she returns home. She starts packing her things, preparing to take her children and leave this town. It is truly too strange and too dangerous. She clearly realizes that what she faces is a powerful and mysterious unknown force. This force may strike at her and her family again at any time. Not long after, a knock is heard at the door. She opens the door and sees Sheriff August. Sheriff August addresses her. Sheriff August asks what she wants, claiming she paralyzed someone and intends to flee, demanding an explanation for what happened. Abigail explains that after she hypnotized him, something seemed to possess his body, making him float into the air and then fall heavily onto the bed, resulting in complete paralysis from the neck down. That thing is incredibly powerful. It can interfere with human bodies and consciousness. After hearing this, Sheriff August tells her to stop talking nonsense, stating that simply put, if she hadn't hypnotized him, this wouldn't have happened. He says nothing else needs to be said and they should talk back at the station. Just then, Dr. Abel Campos arrives to help Abigail out of the situation. He tells Sheriff August that Abigail is telling the truth, that her hypnosis helps patients, and these bizarre events are beyond her control. Adds that even if Abigail doesn't hypnotize him, Scott Straisman would still be paralyzed or face a worse situation. Because from the details in the film, some insomniac patients in the town seem to have been targeted by those entities long ago. Finally, Sheriff August still leaves with his men. Although he does not directly take Abigail, he remains wary of her. So, he arranges for a patrol officer to guard near her house, monitoring her movements 24 hours a day. Night falls in the blink of an eye. The patrol officer falls asleep. When he wakes up and looks, he is terrified. A large beam of blue light shines on Abigail's house. The patrol officer gets out of the car. He sees an incredible scene. A giant UFO. Everything has been confirmed. The the so-called white owls are indeed extraterrestrial entities, including what Abigail, Scott Straisman, and Tommy Fisher encountered. All are extraterrestrial entities. The patrol officer tells Sheriff August this news. Sheriff August immediately comes to Abigail's house. Abigail says they took her daughter. Sheriff August does not believe her and tells her to stop talking nonsense. He claims she is mentally unstable. He accuses her of hiding her daughter. Alright, there is nothing more to say. Sheriff August states that for her son's safety, they are taking him away. Just like that, the police take her son away. Abigail kneels on the ground, crying inconsolably. Having suffered a series of heavy blows, she feels extreme grief and despair. Will Tyler dies, and her daughter is abducted by aliens. The police never believe her explanation of these events. Now, the police use child protection as a reason to strip her of custody and take her son away from her. Afterward, Abigail calms down. After much thought, she realizes she must get her daughter back so Sheriff August and the others will believe her. To uncover the truth, Abigail decides to have Dr. Abel Campos hypnotize her one more time. This is also the last time, as the movie is nearing its end. During the hypnosis, Abigail recalls the night she was taken by aliens. She is taken by the aliens to an unknown place. She describes to Dr. Abel Campos that it seems a sharp object was stabbed into her back. Suddenly, the aliens seem to invade Abigail's body, just like they invaded Scott Straisman's body. Abigail begins to convulse and scream. Next is the conversation between the aliens and Abigail. The general content is that Abigail wants the aliens to release her children. There is nothing else. Finally, Abigail collapses on the sofa. The scene shifts to the hospital. Abigail, like Scott Straisman, is paralyzed from the neck down. Afterward, Sheriff August finds her and wants to ask her a question. He asks how Will Tyler died. Abigail says he was murdered. Sheriff August says no, telling her to look at this picture. He was driven to a fatal breaking point. Abigail cannot believe it, but she has to. Jing from the plot in the film, we can infer that he most likely was driven to a fatal breaking point. Will Tyler always investigates behind Abigail's back. He investigates the existence of extraterrestrial entities. He reads books on ancient languages and similar subjects. He may have also been abducted by the extraterrestrial entities, suffering both physical and mental torment. This long-term fear and helplessness gradually destroys his psychological defenses, making him unable to bear it, and he is driven to a fatal breaking point to end his suffering. There is also another case similar to Will Tyler's situation, that is Tommy Fisher. Therefore, he personally orchestrates a devastating and fatal family tragedy before meeting his demise. As for why she thinks Will Tyler was murdered when she recalls the events of that night, I believe the extraterrestrial entities interfere with her memory, leads her to have a false perception of the true circumstances of Will Tyler's death resulting in a mistaken belief that someone murdered Will Tyler. This also explains why those people see the extraterrestrial entities as the white owl, and sometimes they cannot even remember what happened to them that night. The movie basically ends here. Overall, everything is the aliens' doing. As for whether the footage in the movie is real or not, the narrator believes it is not. This is a method the director uses to create atmosphere. The movie inserts these seemingly real footage clips, and through this method, it makes the audience feel a psychological sense of recognition when watching, thereby better immersing themselves in the film's terrifying and mysterious atmosphere. That is all, there is nothing else to say.